Okay, folks, welcome to Jazz Room at Home, and this is the Sittin' In portion of Jazz Room at Home, the Q&A session with our guest artist for today. And I would like to say sitting next to, but I'm virtually sitting next to the one and only Veronica Swift, one of the finest jazz singers on the scene today, without a doubt. And we have much to talk about. Veronica, for those of you who, and you should know, you probably do, but for those of you that don't, she's really one of the it singers going on the scene today. Originally from Charlottesville, Virginia. She was a child prodigy. Her first record was done when she was 9 years old. She has musical parents. Her father was Hod O'Brien, well-respected jazz pianist. Stephanie Nakasian, a jazz vocalist. So she has roots in a jazz family. She went to school at University of Miami, the Frost School of Music, hit the New York music scene, has done amazing things since then, including placing second in the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Vocal Competition in 2015. She's been very, very busy with people like Wynton Marsalis and Jazz at Lincoln Center, many frequent engagements at Birdland, the New York City Jazz Club, one of the top clubs in New York. Of course, that's going to come back live soon enough. They're trying to do some streaming things now. Maybe Veronica can hip us to that. And lastly, if I say nothing else about Veronica and her wonderful singing, you should know that in 2019, she was voted by Jazz Times Magazine as the best new artist in general, best new jazz artist of any discipline. And she had voted best new vocal release for her album, Confessions. And she's on the cover of DownBeat magazine last month. So that's a big deal. They did a nice profile on Veronica in DownBeat magazine. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Veronica Swift to Jazz Room and Sittin' In. How you doing?
Hey man, it's good to be here. It's nice to have someone to talk to in this industry, right now.
A fellow human being, not in an empty room in this world of what's going on.
Yeah, I've been pretty blessed to have a lot of opportunities, though, to sing in front of live audiences. I was just at Smalls last week doing that thing where they actually have people in the club now. And I know that Gianni's trying to get that over at Birdland. And a couple months ago, I played in Florence at the Bubbly Gardens with full orchestra for 500 people. I'm just, I'm clinging on to those memories and those opportunities just moving forward. Hopefully that's some semblance of, progress.
Yeah, they're trying to make it work with virtual audiences, with streaming audiences, with people socially distanced. So you're trying to make all those various venues. That's great because that's what has to be done right now, of course.
Yeah.
In 4, 5, 6 months we can go back to normal, but no one has a crystal ball about that. And you're so man, and you're performing. You were performing like round the clock up to this point. So
yeah. So it's like if I could just have last year and this year like in the middle, like the dates, all the almost 300 days of a year are last year, and then this year nothing. And if I could just have something in the middle, that would be perfect.
Yeah, that would be nice, right? The small things you liked. Less corona, more people, more safety. Wouldn't that be all nice? Oh man, there's so much to talk about. Let me just start by asking you a couple questions.
Sure.
And for those of you out there who are not hip to her singing, get hip to it. But you're going to hear her sing at 4 o'clock today. Her set with her trio behind her. So, but to share.
Emmet Cohen too. That's my trio. Mm-hmm.
Say that again.
And that'll be with Emmet Cohen and trio,
right,
and so
right,
that's
right.
That's the band. So
not
it's
too shabby, right? Not too shabby.
Yeah.
Good hip cats. So, man, but the thing is, Veronica, you grew up I'm less familiar with your mother and I'm more familiar with your father, but I would love for you to tell me and the people watching today some of the experiences as a young person you had growing up around such musical parents. What was that experience like when you were a little kid? Because you started quite early, I think.
Yeah, I started singing professionally at 9 years old, and it was, I got my first real start with a youth jazz band called the Young Rascals Jazz Project, led by Dave Adams. We toured nationally and recorded, and I was playing trumpet in that group too. And so that was actually really that's really what got me started. And then of course I would sing with my mom and dad too on their gigs. But before that, I was on the road with them. When you watch those old movies like It Did No Business Like Show Business, Ethel Merman, Donald O'Connor, where they have the whole family of vaudeville touring with the kids. With the kids sleeping on the heads on the suitcases in the train station. I was that kid. That was my family. I was the kid. I've learned how to sleep with like all this equipment in the back of the car and all. I think that's why I sleep on planes so well, because I'm just used to that kind of life.
Right.
But it wasn't like
you play trumpet though.
Yeah, I'm a trumpet player too.
Do you play now?
Well, I'm not. I would like to wait to bring that out because I don't want to be known as a trumpet playing singer.
Okay.
I don't play trumpet like other trumpet playing singers. It's just something I do, just like tapping. You gotta bring it in the moments where it makes sense and not it doesn't seem kitschy.
Right.
So. Yeah, like a lot of people say it must have been cool, it must have been awesome, but I mean, it was just life. I don't know any other way, really. For me, it wasn't, it was just so much ingrained, a part of my being and my family being musicians and touring all the time. It didn't seem cool, it's just the way it is. It's like, is it cool that you grew up speaking English? No, it's just what you know. Yeah. And of course, now that I'm older and I've met all different kinds of people, I can appreciate what I had growing up for sure.
Well, yeah, whatever experience one has growing up is what you're brought into. It's funny, but your dad was a great pianist and
one of the great bebop pianists, and he played with Art Farmer, Oscar Pettiford, Chet Baker, and even Mingus asked him to tour with him once, but I think he turned that gig down. Different time, much. We think we're in a dangerous time now. Oh boy. My dad was born in 1936. He's seen some real horrors.
I'm sure.
We're lucky right now, actually.
Oh, I know. We didn't go through the war. We didn't go through a lot of things. No.
And we're going through a lot of, like social change, but not like the 60s or anything. So,
Sure.
so much violence. So my dad grew up, he was born in 36. So he was really around the bebop hang, mostly the tail end. He was a little young, but he was one of those guys. And my mom, when she started singing, in the 80s when she met him, then she joined Jon Hendrix's group and toured with him, and the 80s.
I did not know that. That's fantastic. Whoa.
Yeah. And so John and Annie Ross and Bob Duro and Phil Woods. A lot of these people were just kind of, as a young kid, except maybe Annie and John, I knew who they were as a kid. But people like Bob Duro and Phil Woods and just a lot of these people that they're just my parents' old friends,
Yeah. Oh, that's marvelous. That's marvelous. Yeah.
Yeah, but Annie was one of my heroes as a kid, and so was John. So that was cool. I got to sing Twisted at the Metropolitan Room at 12 years old. I went to go see her, and she asked me to come up and sing. That's the only time I've ever been nervous on stage, really.
Funny lyrics for a 12-year-old to be singing about. You know what I'm talking about, right? In those lyrics, Twisted.
Yeah, so I drank a fifth of vodka one night.
Oh, I'm saying, right? A little tricky.
It's hip, man.
Hip, yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's funny. But man, 9 years old to make a record though, that's a big deal.
Well, it wasn't like an ambitious project or anything. It was just my mom and dad thought it would be a nice thing to just commemorate, like document my life as an artist. Whether I was gonna be, they weren't pushy stage parents or anything like that. They just thought it would be nice to document these times because, we didn't really do that kind of thing. So they just made a CD for me when I was 9, and I was doing a lot of these kinds of songs that made sense, like I Got Rhythm and when a smile overtakes a frown, smile, be optimistic. You know, songs that make sense for a young person, but
Sure.
this album is really good for getting young people interested in jazz.
Sure.
You know, so, and then I did one when I was 12 or 13 as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, people are very honest in those ages too. You know, they don't have a whole lot of baggage from their whole career.
And no bad habits yet, like with music.
Right, of nervousness or like, what am I doing, or where do I fit in? You're just kind of doing it, I guess.
Yeah, and I actually learned a lot by listening to my old records because it was so pure, and I didn't have any kind of idea of how to do this. I was just singing songs I liked, and then I've kind of gone back to that now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kind of mentality is coming back around. It's funny how that always happens. I'm not old. I'm not old by any means, but I still got a whole life ahead of me. But I just mean, I'm old enough to be able to look back, and I'm glad they did these records when I was young, so I can look back on it.
Well, yeah, it was nice to have the parents be able to help you through the process. It's funny when we go through life through phases and we think back about songs or things that we care about when we were younger, they get a new meaning 20, 30 years later. All of a sudden, well, you know, this song still resonates in my heart. So maybe I'll re-record it or do a different twist on it or something, you know.
Yep. I plan to do that. I actually plan to do a recording down the road when I'm older where I'm singing with myself as a young kid, you know. Just
with yourself, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be funny. That would be funny in a hip way. That's really quite cool.
Yeah, maybe like 25th anniversary or something.
So you're performing with your parents. You're making a couple of records as a kid. You're getting a little noticed, but then you go at some point to the University of Miami, the Frost School of Music. I'm imagining to get a degree, but B, learn more of the ins and outs of theory and part singing or whatever.
Well, the reason, as a jazz vocalist, and I was already like in a lot of programs, summer programs, and like I did the Grammy choir before that, Grammy band, you know, that's as a high school. Yeah. Before that, they got rid of that. And I so there weren't really a lot of jazz vocal programs that I saw that I would fit into. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go to New York, but there weren't really, there was New School. That was it. Manhattan School of Music didn't have an undergrad. Juilliard didn't have a jazz vocal program. You know, there just wasn't like as legitimate of a study. So I was like, where do I go? And Miami, of course, had a lot of, Larry Lappin was a good friend of my mother's. And, you know, he was kind of the reason why I went there, because I I liked him a lot, and they gave me a full ride scholarship too. So you can't walk away from that. So, and I liked, you know, it was nice to be at that point in my life. I was really into like electronic music and raves and partying. And so I would go to the clubs all the time and do that. There wasn't much of a jazz scene in Miami, but you know, but it was all right. I didn't go for that. I went, like you said, to gain these other skill sets, an understanding of digital audio music recording and production.
Yeah, they're
really that's the school for that thing. And just like finding what I'm trying to say as an artist. And I actually I went all over the place. I actually departed from jazz for a while. Mm-hmm. Because you kind of need to, as an artist, you can't get too wrapped up in your world. You got to go out of it and then come back in and go out again and come back in, because you bring new things with you every time. So I actually started a metal band down there that I was playing with for a few years, and we met Marilyn Manson and had a nice little cult following in Southern Florida.
Cool.
And I still plan to do stuff with that down the road when it makes sense. And so then I came back, but then right after that, I did the Monk competition. And so it was just kind of like life doing its thing. And I very much trust in the universe. And when you get like a strong feeling to do something, that you should do it.
That's a very, very good program. I mean, I went to school there myself as a trombonist way back before you did. Well, not super way back, but kind of way back. Nothing but good things to say about the Miami vocal program. It gave birth to a lot of people. John Sequata, Laurie White, a whole bunch.
Lisa Ann Lyons.
Okay. Yes. Well, yeah.
My teacher. I loved her.
Excellent. And Dante, don't forget Dante.
Of course.
But so right around this time, yeah, the Monk competition is, for the audience members should know, the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Competition is, I believe it's still happening, unless they've changed
It's
names.
called the Herbie Hancock Institute now.
Right. So, but for the many, many years, this was the premier competition for jazz artists, young jazz artists, and it often launched careers, record contracts for people. You were in it in 2015, if I am correct. And
Yeah.
I second. I wasn't there to vote, sorry. But, not that I wouldn't be voting.
How do you vote for something like that?
I know.
Music.
I did the
No,
same.
it was like the most diverse group of singers I've ever, because
Oh, no,
I've been to a lot of programs. I was like, holy shit, how do you, judge something like this?
Right.
So it was really cool.
Yeah, so you were this is a big deal. So you were singing in front of, tell me all the judges again. We talked about this.
It was Dee Dee, Patty, Austin, Freddie Cole, and Al Jarreau, and Luciana Souza.
Right, and they're judging you on a myriad of things. As I recall, because I went through this myself in the semifinals, there was things like stage presence, and there was song delivery, and there was, unfortunately for me, I remember I tripped on the stage getting up to sing my first song, which didn't do well for me, as I recall.
Oh, oops.
I guess I was a little nervous. Yeah, little Jimmy Scott went, whoops.
Oh.
A little bit of a strike against me, as I recall. That's not very good stage presence, but I'm sure you didn't make that mistake. So you sang, and what now? Of course, judging someone. This whole thing about you sound like you and somebody else sounds like them, and you're a high-level singer. So it's like, what are you judging on, really? Personality, your own thing. So, but
honestly, you just don't think about that kind of thing. I think I got so far in that because I just said, I'm just gonna freaking do my thing. I'm gonna enjoy myself and sing my butt off and not worry about, that's why you perform. You perform with this selfless kind of, energy of just like being present with the music and the musicians and the audience. That's what it's about anyway.
And when it was over, did anything come out of that for you? That upped your career a bit? It probably had to be something.
I'm sure. Yeah. That's, people hear about it, just the name. It wasn't like that was the end all, man. Like,
no, of course not.
Everything I've done in my life has added a lot of people who don't do their homework on me think that I'm like this overnight, whatever the word is, overnight sensation, that everything happens so fast. But I've been doing this for 17 years now. Mm-hmm. And just everything I've done, when I was 12, when I was 14, I was at Dizzy's and just like jazz standard here and this thing there and this festival this summer, and I got to sing with Paquito and this time, and then I sang with Danilo Perez. Just every little thing that you build up, more and more people know your name, and the Monk competition was just one of those things that added to fuel to the fire. And so by the time I was ready to graduate, I had already been singing in New York for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So that when I was actually ready and didn't have like school to keep me away, I was like, I'm ready to work. And Gianni they got me at Birdland. I think I did Iridium first because I did Tribeca Pack front, which came out of the Monk competition. That was the one gig that came out of it. And then out of that I sold a lot of tickets for that. So then Iridium did that, almost sold out there. Then I got Birdland, and then Gianni was like, oops, sorry. Hold on, there we are.
There's technology for you.
Yeah. And then I got the one gig at Birdland, and then sold all the seats there, and then it became a thing. Then I got every Saturday at Birdland. It's just, this is how it works. Build.
Right, of course.
Put in the hours, put in the time, meet the right people, and just be grateful, but don't be afraid to like be present. Say, here I am, and I deserve this. I'm ready.
So let me ask you this. That's a lot about where you were and almost where you are. We're getting there. But when you were a kid, and I know the influence of your father and your mother were really important. But I, as a jazz musician myself and a singer, to some degree myself, I listen to you and I try and sort of as a detective think, All right, what, she didn't just bounce off from a foreign planet. She's been around this music for a long time.
Sometimes it feels that way.
This woman has been listening to music and she's been absorbing things. I would like to know,
How do you do it?
and I don't want to say that we're only the product of our influences. That's like, that takes the X factor away from us as people. But I would love to hear what you think about some of the singers, maybe when you were younger, perhaps, that touched your heart, that made you.
Oh, and now too.
Yeah,
It never ends.
So just, especially when you're younger, that like sort of started to move your direction to a new star to guide your ship. Tell me some about
Well,
that.
I mean, I as anyone that I know that I hang out with, we get, when it comes to listening to artists, we get in phases, you kind of have, I had my Ella Fitzgerald phase way back, and then I had another one, right, like 5 years later. I always come back to it. I had the Sarah Vaughan phase, all the great singers, but then a lot of the phases that kind of never went away for me are the Anita O'Days.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say after listening to
Of
you,
course, that's the big one.
Absolutely.
Dinah Washington, I feel like I'm still in a never-ending phase with her. And that's why I wanted to record this Bitter Earth, and because she did it. Ethel Waters, Mildred Bailey. I preferred what I like to do as a kid, and this is partially because I was so obsessed with, before I even really got into jazz music, I was just obsessed with classical music.
Oh, that's nice.
And I was obsessed with tracing the lineage of how did Mozart get influenced by Bach, and I was trying to trace the influences back.
Sure.
And
that's always interesting, right?
Yeah, well, that's how, that's, for me, that's
you're
like
history, and you're like a detective. You're seeing similarities, then you see things move forward into history. Why they change over time? It's very interesting. Yeah.
And who, so I did that with my favorite jazz artist, and like Stan Getz. Why do I like him so much? Oh, because he sounds like he was, emulating Lester Young and trying to do that thing, and then he found his sound. And Ella Fitzgerald, when you listen to her early stuff, she was really mimicking a lot of Connie Boswell. And then you listen to the Boswell sisters, and they're like, so it's like Louis Armstrong, New Orleans. And then you listen to Louis Armstrong, then you go back, King Oliver. And I had such a affinity for the early music of the early 30s, 20s. That was kind of like my parents didn't listen to that stuff. That was what I got into on my own. And that was really where I started to understand how swing works,
Right. Sure.
That's where my time got really good, was from listening to that.
Like all those vocal groups, like the Modernaires, the Pied Pipers, and all that. What was the Mel Torme group? The Meltones,
Meltones. Yeah, but I'm listening to more instrumental music. You have Hot Fives, Hot Sevens, and you have Red Nichols and Original Memphis 5. A lot of these old bands that, a lot of that era is kind of looked over for a lot of modern jazz musicians, but I think that you have to go back. That's why some of our favorite people, they know it all.
Right, they do know it all. I mean, I think of one person that comes to my mind, and I'm sure you've either worked with him or know who I'm talking about, is the saxophonist / trumpet player. You don't know that, is Scott Robinson. Do you know Scott Robinson? I mean,
I know, yeah.
I used to play with him in Vince Giordano's band, the Nighthawks, years ago. And I was always keeping up, because the style of that music was so refined, and they really nailed it. 1920.
Down with science.
Oh my God. I always felt like I never quite nailed it. I was always thinking 1950s Count Basie, and here I am in 1928.
No, too modern.
No, don't lay back. Vince would
stop.
You're like, stay, Pete, get on the time. Yell at
And I love it. I used to go to see the Nighthawks all the time, and I want to record an album with the Nighthawks so bad.
Oh, the thing is, you have to use the megaphone.
Oh, of course. And I actually got to sing in one of those. I got to sing in a phonograph, 1890s phonograph, recorded to wax cylinder a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so funny. Because the sound.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. It's very funny.
Yeah, and the warbling of the.
Oh,
no electricity. And
Yeah.
and like a lot of people listening to older music, they listen to these singers, but it's so corny, and so the time is so strict, and they're over pronouncing things. Well, you want to know why? Because you try singing on one of those things and the sound doesn't pick up unless you're like screaming
On the recording, exactly.
and you have to pronounce your words, you know, so you can
Little
pick it
bel
up.
canto there.
Quite incredible.
Now that's cool, because the thing is, yeah, that's an art form. I mean, to be aware of those things, and to be like a, you know, super jazz snob of the only thing that matters in the world is what came out in 2020. And there's so many great things that are happening in 2020, but to be completely ignorant of the past leading up to 2020.
Yeah,
you're
not for me. I need.
You know, the whole, you're trying to see the whole picture. I think that's fantastic.
You have to.
So this is amazing. So how many, was it months or years you were a regular on Saturday nights at
Birdlands? Well, yeah. I mean, when I moved to New York in March of 2017, I was pretty much at Birdland every Saturday for about 9-10 months before I started really touring a lot. I met Chris Bodie that summer and started doing more and more gigs with him, and so that kind of kept me away. And then and then of course my name was getting out and people were getting hip to it, and I started touring a lot more, and I had to just do the Birdland Saturdays where I could fit them in. And then it became, so I wasn't even in New York. So then I now Gianni gave me Birdland every July 4th week and Thanksgiving week. So those are my residencies then.
Right. And are they planning on doing any kind of virtual kind of streaming?
Well, they've been doing virtual streamings with Broadway. There's a couple of Broadway streaming platforms, and I don't know which one they're in partnership with, but they've been doing them this whole time. Okay. And they're going to be streaming mine Thanksgiving week.
Okay.
I don't know which day, but because that's like kind of, you know, when I would sing at Birdland. But I think I talked to Gianni. He's going to try to go for some like, you know, because you can open up, I think, if it's like dinner theater and it's kind of not super advertised, kind of like what Spike is doing at Smalls. Gianni wants to do that with Birdland.
Well, that's one of the ways to keep the clubs going. And I can't speak for the rest of the country, but certainly in New York City, is that Smalls, the Village Vanguard, Birdland, I don't know what the Blue Note's doing, if they're even trying to do this, to keep patrons, quote unquote, coming to the club to see some music, you know. And hopefully that, I really hope that, you know, this is going to go on for a while. So the clubs have to keep paying rent, and we just have to support them as people are supporting us with the Jazz Room. So it's like we're our own club, the Jazz Room.
I know, yeah.
We're Jersey. Yeah, you're in very good company, and you're one of the shining stars
of
this season. It's a big deal. So what's Jazz at Lincoln Center doing? You were involved with them for a long time. I want to hear, first of all, how you got hooked up with Winton and that organization, and if there's anything going on with them regarding you, regarding them, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did my first jazz. I mean, I had done Dizzy's a couple times as a kid,
right.
And then when I did Monk and Tribeca, you know, all that stuff. Then I think Will Friedwald, my buddy, recommended me for one of Michael Feinstein's. You know, he does like this songbook series at jazz at the Appel Room. And I think I was recommended along with Vuyo, and they had us up with Marilyn May and Frida Payne with Michael, and we did a whole night of stuff. And I got to sing All the Things You Are duet, just me, Michael, and Ted Firth on piano, and like just right. I had just such a nice, Michael and I really had a nice moment of kinship, and that was one of my big introductions into the Jazz at Lincoln Center scene, because I was singing at the Appel Room, sold out, you know, room, beautiful. That's the most beautiful room to play in New York.
Yeah.
Of any venue, of any genre. And so after that, then I, you know, moved to New York, and then I got this one gig with Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra to do the 80th anniversary of Carnegie Hall concert, Benny Goodman Orchestra.
Oh, way cool. Wow.
Yeah. And of course, you know, like, it doesn't require much of a, much virtuosity with singing, because what's her Tilda? No. Oh, I'm blanking on the singer's name. How embarrassing.
Who?
Martha Tilton.
Tilton.
What's her name?
Martha Tilton?
No, the singer that sang with Benny Goodman on that concert.
Oh God, I know who you're talking about.
Oh God, no. I used to know. This is not doesn't make me look very good right now. But she's no.
That sounds right. No, I can't look it up now. Anyways,
well, anyway.
Yeah.
I got to sing Loch Lomond and Buy Me a Bist of Sheng. Not much singing, really. Big band singer kind of thing. But
right.
I think Wynton took, he can see right through anyone. And I think he took a liking to me because I did it authentically and, with still being myself, but being authentic to the spirit of the piece, right? I wasn't trying to, put my scat stuff in there and try to show off anything. I'm just singing
that way.
The gig.
Quite good that way. Like I watch your performances and like you sing the song, and if you do throw a little scat in, it seems like a filler at the right moment, and it's very tasteful.
Thank you.
It's just very.
And everyone's taste is different, but this is how I like to approach a gig like this. And then he took a notice of that, and then the next year I did the big band holiday tour with them, and that was just we learned that we were one and the same, kind of the way we approach music, and I was one of the guys. That's how I've always been. Yeah. And then he had me up at Marciac with the quintet last summer, where I got to sing with his Wynn's quintet. Mm-hmm. And that was life-changing as well, and just here and there.
Yeah.
Hope to do more.
Because I always tell my students, and you had a lifetime of this, which was probably an asset for you, not to discount your true talent, but I gotta say, when I tell my students, when you perform with people who are better than you, it's like it's first of all, it brings your game up, and it makes actually your job a lot easier, because everything around you sounds so good, and it makes. You don't have to look for the time. You don't have to hunt for the harmony. It's all right there. Everyone's doing it so gracefully that you can't help but want to do a better job, or add yourself, melt into the greatness around you. So it's so wonderful you had that experience, and it just
He just made me feel like I was like, you're one of us,
Yeah.
Just sing, and that's exactly how it was. And you can see it in the video, just the joy that we're all experiencing on stage together.
You really have a lot of chops together too. I think the people need to know that you have amazing sense of pitch, which is a skill. It's something you really have.
I came from years of singing those Bach fugues and preludes. So I used to like to sing them.
You put the time in to really sing accurately and hear and sing accurately, like you're playing a piano, but you're singing with your voice. I mean, that's something all young students should know, because even college students, the level of accuracy you have is remarkable. When you sing a melody,
it makes some of the other stuff easier, really.
If you have that skill set.
Yeah.
And when you start singing, it's not jive. It's like, I hear lines, I hear the harmony, I can hear the voice leading, all that stuff. It's all right there. It's just effortless. It just comes right out. So brava, I should say, to you for that. I was going to say, so material. Songs you lean to, from what I've checked out, are standards and jazz tunes, but you're not afraid of tempos. You're not afraid to bring the tempo upstairs when it comes to a certain jazz tune or scat singing at faster tempos. And we were talking before, I think we had talked about Anita O'Day a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Is that
yeah, she's the queen of that.
Yeah. So were there a couple of singers in your listening through the years that made you feel more confident about singing faster tempos, or was that just something from a horn player mentality you kind of brought in?
Well, I mean, I don't know if confidence is the right word. It's just, the only thing that brings confidence is doing it more and more and more, right? And just really working. Well, I guess when it comes to singers, Anita O'Day was my favorite in terms of how she kind of glided over these fast tempos. It didn't,
She did.
it sounded just effortless for her. And her sense of time was so different than any other singer that I had heard. It was like take Billie Holiday, but bebop, in terms of how she played around with phrasing. If Billie Holiday sang bebop in fast tempos, that was kind of, well, Anita O'Day only really listened to her only singers that she really cites as influences are Martha Ray and Billie. But it's mostly, yeah, I mean, just mostly instrumentalists. I really urge vocalists, they're saying, oh, like what Ella Fitzgerald scat solos should I learn? Like, learn instrumentalist solos. That's who she was listening to.
Excellent.
So, you know, absolutely. You know, and especially
doing. That's what she was doing, right? Because I think so many singers, Veronica, just gravitate toward the it singer of scat singing of Ella Fitzgerald, and that's wonderful. But like you just said, you know, she was singing the horn lines. Absolutely.
Yeah. So listen to her, and then listen to like people she was listening to, and analyze like what was she checking out, and why she chose certain articulations and certain lines. I mean, with Ella, a lot of the sometimes you would have a lot of solos that were pre-figured out, because it was just kind of like it's, you know, like it's like Eddie Van Halen, may he rest in peace. Like he played his solos that were on the record because they're so iconic, right? Right. And sometimes in you know popular jazz medium, you have to do that, I guess sometimes. But of course, one of the great improvisers, who were they listening to? And that's the approach I like to take.
I love listening to Mel Torme solos when he just verbatim sings Ella solos. I mean, it's just shameless. You know,
he worshipped her. Yeah, he worshipped her.
So influenced by Ella Fitzgerald, and it's remarkable.
And you always wonder, like, which of those like kinships that we see on TV and then on stage, which of those were actually authentic? Because you know, a lot of times that was the age of, this is my best friend, and then of course backstage it's a whole different story. Right. But what James, my buddy James Torme, when he says that his father truly worshipped the ground she walked upon, which really is nice to hear, because he knows.
Oh God Almighty! There's that one clip from the Grammys in the '70s where the two of them go up and sing "Lady Be Good," and they're, you know what I'm talking about. It's the famous thing, and you know, he's just doing her thing and she's doing her thing. By the way, it started with her, and he's just kind of glommed down a little later, but he's got his own thing too, of course, you know. Yeah. It's so cool, and then the camaraderie is so wonderful. You know, people really dug performing with each other. There was less competition and just more love of each other, and just. I
see that nowadays too, man. I mean, we're in such an era right now with whatever jazz. The jazz world is. I mean, nowadays the influences are endless, because there's just a world of musical influences coming into this music, and you could have two artists that are jazz artists and they sound absolutely nothing alike. It's like that's not even the same genre of music, but it's and I like that nowadays we're in a world where the artistry is pretty much the name of the person, right? So like even it was like that even with like someone like Nina Simone. It's like, yeah, there's jazz, but there's also classical music and soul music, and the genre is Nina Simone. And we see that more nowadays. So therefore there's less competition, doesn't really exist much anymore in that way. It's just, there's so much more camaraderie nowadays, especially from the 80s. Very different time.
Yeah, I think and some things were happening in the 80s where they were trying to redefine where jazz is going, the retro thing, and bringing hard bop back, and, you know, trying to like, you know, some people were very anti-fusion, and they were trying to restore traditional jazz.
Yeah, you had to like pigeonhole yourself in order to be taken seriously in a scene. But nowadays it's different. Thank God, because Lord knows, like if I want to do a rock and roll song, as long as it makes sense, you know, artistically speaking. If I want to do that, then no one's going to bat an eye, you know?
Yeah, and then you can do that great, and then walk into the Ear Inn in New York City one night and sing a trad tune and sound great. Right?
Yeah, I'll put it all together in a show, you know? Right,
sure.
As long as it makes sense.
And music is, you know, it's a history, but it's like when people pigeonhole themselves into a bag, it can be very limiting, both for the audience and for the artist. I mean, you know, only going to do this bag, and I'm not going to do another bag. I mentioned Scott Robinson before. You know, he's one of those people, you know, a horn player version of maybe yourself, who does like a million different things. But there's an authenticity about everything he does, you know, just like
absolutely
real passion. If he wants to play out, and just make noises, and then turn around and play, you know, a really 1928 style saxophone. You can really,
Also, Joey DiFrancesco too.
he'll do that. He'll jump around.
Yeah. I mean, even just talk about the diversity of the instruments that he plays.
So listen, we have about, I would say we have about 5 minutes left. We don't have any chiming in, but dig, maybe 7 minutes. But you've done a number of records, and tell me what you are planning. I mean, this is a rough question right now, I know that. But let's say in the next 12 months, what are you planning on doing? You're going to continue to perform. Do you have another, what's your latest record? Your latest record is Confessions, is that?
Yeah, that came out last year. We recorded it. Mac Avenue.
Mac Avenue, okay. So that's out. People can buy that. They can get that on everywhere you buy records, right?
Yeah.
Or macavenue.com or whatever the label is. And
also veronicaswift.com. I sell them there too.
Even at your own website, of course, veronicaswift.com. So now we're all in the lockdown. We're trying to get whatever gigs we can, whether they're virtual or hopefully going to be, you know, some live. Do you have another thing coming up? You think?
Yeah, right. I mean, in December last year, we recorded the next record that's coming out in March. Which actually, yeah, there's a single. The single is available. The first single, "This Bitter Earth," is available right now. Okay. And we have a few more coming out until March next year. Okay. That's when the record will be available. And it's called. Yeah, we're doing 4 singles, and the record's called "This Bitter Earth," and it just kind of. It's amazing how relevant the content on this album is now that I never could have imagined it would be this relevant. So it's quite creepy how the universe works like that in some ways.
The tune choices.
Yeah, no, the tune choices and just the sonic atmosphere on the record. We go to a lot more. We have a lot more diversity genre-wise than the last record. Because, you know, the last record was really just an introduction to who I am and the base of who I am and the core. But, you know, I'm so much more than just, you know, I'm not a standard singer. I'm not just that. I don't just sing people. And that's what this is a chance for people to get to know me a little more. But as Winton said, for me to do, like, to just, what do you want to say with your music? What do you have to say something, whether it's a commentary on the world or the scene you're in. He kind of urged me to be more of a figure and making, you know, not like a political statement. It's not that. It's not at all taking that. But it's just like a matter of, here's where we are in the world and how can we move forward from this. And I think this record will bring a lot of hope and a lot of, you know, healing energy to people.
So it's more than just a collection of songs, in other words.
I would never just do a collection of songs. I need a purpose. I need some kind of statement.
Cool.
I don't just pick tunes, man. I can't. It's not in my...
That's coming out in March. That's the drop date is March. But the singles are being released bit by bit until March, right?
Yeah. And the first one's out now. So if you want to listen to it, it's quite a track. Strings, beautiful strings.
Oh, marvelous. Excellent. Do you have favorite arrangers you like to work with? Did you write the music yourself?
Oh, no, I arrange most everything myself, along with my band. You know, we all put in our 2 cents. But this arrangement was done by Stephen Feifke. I like working, also like, I have a lot of people that I love working with. But down the road, I think each record's going to have a kind of completely different sonic, you know, center. And the next record I might be working more with arrangers who kind of write in the 30s style. You know, each record's going to have a different sound. So I have a wide range of arrangers that I work with too. Whoa. on the bigger, like strings or more orchestrated stuff. When it's just trio, I pretty much do it myself along with Emmet.
Sure. Strings are definitely an art form that requires a certain mentality. There's no doubt about it. Well, that is super cool.
Thanks.
I mean, and then just lastly, before we cut out, because there's no questions we can take today, unfortunately. Normally we'd be taking the audience.
Sorry, everyone.
But man, I gotta say, after checking you out, you can scat sing, and that is not a small thing. There's some, and I don't want to put down singers who try to scat sing, who don't scat sing. Okay, that's all right. Technology. But the thing about scat singing is a big deal, because for me, for a singer who can sing changes and sing tempos, I mean, that's, things like perfect pitch, things like singing along with records, things like preparing your ear like you did with the music of Bach or something like that. How do you think about singing? Do you play trumpet? You mentioned that, but you don't want to talk about it. No? Can we talk about trumpet playing? Because you played trumpet as a young person, right? A bit?
Yeah.
So did that mentality of blowing into a horn, finding an exact pitch, moving your lips and all that?
Well, just like you really had to hear the note before playing it.
Right.
That kind of mentality of just the forward thinking, you have to think the next phrase ahead, the next change ahead.
Do you think that affected you as a singer, though? I mean,
of course it did.
And then,
of course.
Boom. Yeah, that's very cool. And I know.
Yeah, placement and preparation of the embouchure, all these technical things, and a lot of, especially singers, because there's technique, but it's not like as tactile, right? Is that a word?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's not as
grab onto something. We can't grab onto.
Yeah, it's not as hands-on.
Right.
When you're doing muscle memory and technical stuff with playing piano or trumpet or here.
Sure.
But so a lot of singers will kind of use that as a kind of excuse to not be as like they say, oh, the technique just makes the artistry, not like the musicianship. Just the technique clouds my musicianship, and all this technique, and talk about technique clouds my artistry. Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, the technique is there so that you have muscle, an automatic understanding of how to sing this stuff. The accuracy doesn't. It's.
I agree with you.
Having that accuracy doesn't. It's a tool, and just the platform so that you can actually say what you want to say without any kind of, clouding. It's like speaking with proper grammar, which obviously I don't do as much as I would like. it helps when you have a better vocabulary, when you have better grammar understanding of. It's like knowing what you want to say before you say it. The same thing with talking. And this is why Wynton's just like, like talking to him. It's like, God, I can't talk.
We got to cut in about 2 minutes, but I just want to say one thing.
All right.
You're a fabulous musician on numerous levels. I mean, in terms of song delivery, the scat singing, all the styles,
figuring it out.
I mean, you're really like one of the it singers, and I'm so pleased, and I'm so glad you were on our series this season, and that you and I got to spend some time together, and I'm going to continue to enjoy digging and being inspired by your records, and I hope other people out there are going to, after they hear her wonderful concert, which starts almost now. So 4 p.m. we're going to hit. So Veronica, thank you so very much for coming today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for everyone who's watching and, listening to me. I'm sure you don't want to listen to me talk anymore. Let's do some music.
Let's do some music. All right. Groovy. Thanks, folks. Now.
Thank you.